Hey everybody, it's Joyce Lick here from Black Hair Compass, and I am coming to you guys today with another submission to the question box. I'll get right into it. So the question is, water and oil do not mix. How is oil successful in helping hair retain moisture if applied to wet hair? I think this is a great question. This is something that a lot of people have kind of asked me, and I think the premise of your question is correct, that water and oil do not mix. That is a fact. But I do think that the fact that water and oil don't mix is irrelevant to why it is a good moisturizing routine, if you will. So basically what happens is you go in the shower, you get your hair completely saturated with water, and in that process what your hair is doing is it's absorbing the water. It's in like its maximum state of moisture, because at the end of the day there's only one thing that moisturizes hair, and it's water. Even if you have found a commercial product that you really like because it moisturizes your hair, it's the reason why it's probably moisturizing is because its first ingredient is water. You don't need commercial products to moisturize your hair, but if that's what you prefer, that's okay to use. But water is the only thing that actually moisturizes your hair. But the thing with water is that once it's in your hair, it doesn't necessarily stay in your hair, because as your hair begins to dry and you go outside in the sun and you're just walking around, the water evaporates out of your hair strands. And once the water is completely gone, your hair goes back to feeling dry. So this is where applying oil to the hair strand comes into place, because let's back up. So you've saturated your hair with water, and then you put a coating of oil on top of the hair strand. Unlike water, oil does not absorb into the hair strand for the most part. There are some people that argue that coconut oil does absorb into the hair strand. I don't know if that's true or not, but most oils don't absorb into the hair strand, and they just sit on top of the hair strand. What that means is that, you know, you've already saturated with water, now you've got oil on top of it. When you go outside and you're in the sun, the water is not going to be able to evaporate as quickly because the oil has stopped it from being able to leave the hair. Water really can't pass, like you said, water and oil don't mix, and that's because water can't really pass through oil. So the oil really pretty much traps the water inside, and it won't trap it forever, but it will kind of slow down the process of evaporation so that your hair doesn't feel as dry as quick. Now there is two sides to that coin. Just like you can put water first and then oil on top of it, once that oil is on top, it's going to keep the water in, but it can also keep additional water out. So that's another thing that you kind of have to keep in mind, because even if you do an experiment right now where you go wash your hands and then you put some oil on your hands, they'll feel really hydrated and smooth. But if you put your hands back under the water, you'll see that the water beads on top of your skin. And the reason for that is because it can't absorb into your skin because there's oil there. And oil behaves the same way in your hair also. It can keep water out. So that could actually contribute to your hair being dry in the long run if you don't wash that oil away first and then, you know, reintroduce some new water and then put a fresh coating of oil on top. So that's something to consider. That is a great question. And you didn't ask this, but I'm gonna go ahead and touch on it because it's related. I've had some people ask me, is it okay for me to put oil and water in my spray bottle and shake it and spray it on my hair? And I think the answer to that is yes too, primarily for some of the same reasons that I've just explained. Again, water and oil don't mix, but when you vigorously shake the bottle, what happens is the oil disperses throughout the water. It doesn't mix with the water, but it will disperse with it. And the awesome mechanism of the spray bottle, as soon as you pull the trigger, it'll spray, you know, the contents of the spray bottle, which is great for us because what it means is that we can get a large amount of coverage with just a small amount of oil. If you were to go in the shower, wet your hair, put some oil in your hands, rub them together and rub it across your hair, you would probably only get oil on these areas. You wouldn't get the underside and, you know, the back and maybe the bottom and all that stuff. Like, you probably wouldn't get that good of a coverage. But if you use a spray bottle, it's going to be able to apply a smaller amount of oil over a larger surface. So I'm actually really a fan of using spray bottles that have water and oil in them, because it just helps you to disperse a small amount of oil over a large area so you don't have, you know, just a bunch of unnecessary oil in your hair. So yeah, I mean, I hope that that answers your question. I think that was a really great question. That is always kind of something that's up for debate. Water and oil don't mix, so how effective can it be? I think, like I said before, the fact that they don't mix is irrelevant. You can still get the hydrating properties from using them in combination together. And I hope this answered your question. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.